If you're anything like me, you refuse to be held back not by time, not by expectations, and not by needlessly throwing money away into the pockets of big wireless. Thankfully, there's a better way with Consumer Cellular. Consumer Cellular offers the same fast, reliable, nationwide coverage as big wireless without the big wireless cost. And they don't surprise you with hidden fees or confusing long-term contracts. For a limited time, you can sign up for Consumer Cellular and save $50 with promo code TED50.
Visit consumercellular.com/TED50 or call 1-888-FREEDOM and mention promo code TED50.
Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, look who's coming.
We're going to talk about you. He has 5 minutes for us.
I got a lot to do.
Okay, we're just reminiscing. It's not your turn yet. About when we worked with you. I came on, hey, listen, he's here. Why are we pretending? We don't do pretend well, Woody, especially Woody.
Wait,
No.
you're actors. That's essentially all you do.
No, we do everything real.
We don't pretend.
No, we only tell the truth as
Yes,
actors.
and the truth is, Conan O'Brien just sat down next to us. So
I did.
So hi.
When I see you guys sitting together and I see a third chair, I am strongly motivated to sit in that chair. I really am.
Oh, that's nice.
I adore both of you. This is a huge treat, so thank you for having me. Seriously.
This
Thanks,
is why
buddy.
he's so good on his podcast.
Yeah, he's so good.
Good at pretending to admire people.
Pretending. We're all here pretending, I guess.
No, seriously, I was. Here's what insulted me. We are right now. You are doing your podcast at a studio that I have built with my bare hands, and this is my staff. And I come in today. Everyone's smartly dressed, and really excited because two big stars are coming. I come in every day, and people are dressed like shit, and suddenly. It's like, well, Ted and Woody are coming. And I said, I know, but come on. What about me? They don't care. They're very excited that you're here.
By the way, you look dressed up too. You got the gray slacks.
He wants to ask you about your underclothes.
Oh, let's hear it.
Briefs or whatever.
Well, yeah. Actually, Woody, that was private between the two of us.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just use an ace bandage. I wrap an ace bandage around my testicles and crotch. And so...
That's a great visual. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I can set the tension every day depending on what I want to feel.
Or who you're interviewing.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right, yeah.
I can cinch it, get it real tight.
What is it's the kind of the Catholic adjunct to that they do that kind
Yes.
of...
Yes. Not even the Catholic, it's self-flagellating.
Right.
And what it is, it's this idea that we're all, I don't know how you guys were raised. I was raised very Catholic.
Yeah.
You were raised Catholic?
No.
Watered down Catholic.
You're so watered down Catholic. Yeah,
Episcopal.
there's no
Yeah.
way.
No.
Right. You're supposed to suffer and feel badly. And my mother used to start every sentence with, I just feel so bad. I just feel so badly that someone else didn't have enough cake, that someone else missed the bus, that someone else, I saw someone on the street today and I just felt so bad. You're supposed to feel badly all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of the...
Pride goeth before a fall.
Yes. If you're miserable in this life, you will be rewarded in heaven. But you need to be miserable all the time.
Wow, I think there's something to that. I mean, you're joking about it, but it really is like you need to kind of even not the extreme, but just the regular Catholicism or even Protestantism.
Yeah.
Like, there's a certain amount of mental self-flagellation.
Yes. Yes.
And the guilt over the sin and all of the it takes like. I talked one time, I remember years ago, to Brad Pitt, and I was saying, do you ever get out from under the guilt from religion? And he says, I don't think so.
No.
And I don't know that anybody does.
I can't tell if it was the religion I can't get out from under or my mother's interpretation of her religion.
Well, I'd like to get a bead on, and by the way, I love the contrast in your styles right now. Ted, let me paint this for the listener. Ted, you look like a very well-paid Dutch architect. You are wearing beautiful...
Boy, nailed it. Wow.
And Woody looks like he just washed up on shore a kind of a low-rent Caribbean boat exploded and you washed up on shore. Something from Triangle of Sadness.
That's not
yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
You got your flip-flops and it looks like your shorts are something you made quickly yourself out of a handkerchief. But you both, I just love it. You two you don't match and yet you match perfectly.
That's right.
You know, it's crazy. I don't know. I have a very clear memory. I have little snapshot memories in my mind that will never go away. And I have a very clear memory of, it's a long, crazy story. And a lot of my fans know it, but basically Letterman's leaving late night and there's this crazy, they don't know who to get to replace him because he left them in a lurch. They didn't think he was going to leave. There's this panic. A lot of insane, crazy coincidences happened, and they end up with basically auditioning this 29-year-old goofball, myself, and then they just say, we don't know what to do, let's just give it to him, because he seems to know what to do, which was a mistake. But they picked me, I was 30, and I'm in a hotel room in New York, and I have like 2 months to put the late night show together. And I'm there with my friend Robert Smigel, who's going to help me put this show together, and we got nothing. And all I know is that we're at, I think I'm in the Riga Royal Hotel, and we're on the floor with just ideas, sheets of ideas. The new late night show starring the nobody, this person no one's ever heard of, who's going to replace the great David Letterman. I'm in this hotel room, and I've got sheets on the floor with just scribbled ideas, and Robert's there, and we turn on the TV, and it's the final Cheers episode party salute, where it's just all of America is saying the greatest television show of all time is coming to a close. And I remembered feeling the disparity between where you guys were and that I was on the floor with shreds of paper and she was cheering and wow, yeah. And, you know, and then there's this whole Tonight Show, like salute to you guys. And it just, all of America was losing its mind. And then they were like, well, a great sun sets on NBC. But don't worry. In 2 months, we found a guy named Chip Whitley to come along and pick up the banner. I've never felt such a chasm between where I was and where these other people were. And that chasm, I don't think has never completely closed, but it's so funny now to be sitting with you guys. That was 30 years ago. And to be sitting with you guys now and still be alive is amazing to me.
It must feel good to be our bosses and know you have control over our happiness,
our
completely.
destiny.
That's true. That's true. I was very pleased to know that neither of you invested your money wisely. And
Damn it.
These guys who are icons are living paycheck to paycheck from the podcast.
Why?
Ted often shows up to get his paycheck in person.
Oh, man. Let me ask you, as you do your self-deprecating humor, where did that come from? Has it always been?
Yeah,
why?
It's built in. I could not fake that. You do a mental, I think when kids are 3, they're starting to do a mental checklist of what, let me back it up. If you're playing a video game, you immediately know what your character's powers are. Like I got a bow and arrow, I've got 2 bombs, I've got a magical sword. Whatever video game you're playing, you're told what's in your arsenal right away. I think kids do a mental checklist when they're very young, consciously or unconsciously. And I came from a really big family, still do, and I'm in the middle of 6. And I remember going through my checklist and thinking, girls don't seem that interested. I mean, it wasn't 3. I'm going to go higher. It was like 6.
That was the first thing on the checklist?
It was pretty early on. I was like noticing.
My nanny doesn't really care for me.
I've made several advances on my nanny, and she keeps reminding me I'm 4 and that I can't take her to dinner and don't have a credit card.
I can't take another rebuff.
But no, I was going through my checklist and realizing the first thing you realize is the way that a lot of, at that time anyway, guys got sorted was athleticism. And I knew I don't have that. There's just a lot of things that weren't, and I didn't like the way I looked. So I had bright orange hair, freckles.
Tall at that point or no?
No, still I had a late growth spurt, literally in my late 40s. No, I got a great growth spurt quite late, like in high school. I got tall, but wow. I was not, particularly tall when I was younger. So just super skinny, not that big, bright orange hair. I looked like the Wendy's logo, and I was not. I remembered hating, like I would see. Remember that show Hogan's Heroes?
Yes.
I'd see Bob Crane, and I think that's what people are supposed to. A guy should have jet black hair like Elvis or Bob Crane. Like, right. You're supposed to have black hair and you're supposed to look like that. You're not supposed to have an orange bowl cut that your mother is giving you with the Sears and Roebuck haircutting kit. Line you all up and you sit on the kitchen table now and it's your turn and like you're in prison.
It's funny as you say it, but truly not funny in that moment back then.
Yeah.
Were you really like, I was that version of the same thing. When I was 12, I was 6 foot and weighed 120 pounds, which is terrifyingly skinny. I mean, just terrifying.
My record was 6'4", when I shot up real fast. 6'4", terrible growth pains, like roll out of bed and your calves just lock up.
Yeah.
And the only way to get it to stop is if you can somehow stand on both feet, which is impossible because it's locked up. It's in a shut position. You've got to get your leg open and stand on it. That's the only thing you can do. Wow. And people in my house would hear screaming from my room. Screaming, which was either, terrible, terrible lockup of my calf muscle or me masturbating. Because I used a Brillo pad, which I later learned is not something to do.
But for 2 years, it worked well.
Yeah, and man, my penis was clean. An amazing reflective surface. But my
after you cleaned up the blood.
Yeah, well, that just dries, Woody. I was 6'4", 155 pounds.
Oh, that's...
my God.
And I could... a memory I had when I was a writer on Saturday Night Live, I remembered, I think it was Dana Carvey and Kevin Nealon said, hey, Conan, come get lunch with us. So I went and got lunch with them, and I'm in my early 20s. And I go down, and I could not gain weight. So I remembered and Dana's just watching me because Dana's a runner, super healthy. So Dana ordered like a salad. And I think Kevin had like some kind of dietetic shake he had brought because they're both on camera and they're guys in their 30s. And I ordered a triple cheeseburger with bacon on it, French fries, a Coca-Cola, large Coca-Cola, and an ice cream soda, a chocolate shake with like ice cream in it and whipped cream on top. I demolished all of that and then ordered an ice cream sundae for dessert. And Dana stared at me the whole time. And when I was done, he said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 24, Dana. And he said, enjoy that. In this way, like I'm coming from the future to tell you this will not continue, but for right now, just enjoy that.
You seem like you don't have a problem with your weight now.
I don't, but I mean, but I do
work out.
I have to work out, and I have to watch what I eat. I can't just eat anything. Yeah. And when I fall into old Catholic habits of eating like 6 pounds of ham, just devouring it like in the refrigerator door,
right?
Like a monster. Yeah, I'll pay the price. So anyway, it's fascinating because I think we go through these checklists when we're kids, and then to get back to it, I realized that if I made fun of myself, it kind of just worked. And I watched a lot of old Bob Hope. Bob Hope was always, his comedic style was back on his heels, like, fellas, good to see it. Like everyone is bigger than him. Everyone's stronger than him. And he's always running into big guys and sort of touching him on the chest and go, muscles, nice with the muscles. Fellas, good to see you guys. All right, I'll just be on my way. And then I realized, it was only till he pointed out, but Woody Allen he said I totally ripped off Bob Hope. Early Woody Allen. It's all, fellas, good. Oh, look at the muscles. Officer, he's got a gun. Nice. And I just picked that up and was constantly doing that kind of shtick. And suddenly I realized people were laughing. They're asking me to do it again. Sometimes a girl is laughing, which got my attention. Like, oh,
Yes, no,
I can't catch a football,
but
I can make her laugh while she's still dating the football player.
Why make life harder than it needs to be? With Consumer Cellular, you get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as big wireless, but without the cost of big wireless. And switching is easy. And I'm talking to you, Nick, because pretty soon you're going to be switching because these commercials I'm reading are going to convince you to do it. I guarantee it.
I feel myself being convinced.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Consumer Cellular is here to serve you with an award-winning team of real human people based entirely in the U.S. There are no activation fees, no hidden costs, and no long-term contracts. They even have partnerships with AARP, USAA, Assurion, and Allstate Roadside Assistance.
Ted, I know you made the switch recently to Consumer Cellular.
I did.
How's the service been since switching?
I can tell you I put it into a test because I live in a canyon and service is, usually drops out like mad, and I haven't had any dropouts. So that's pretty cool.
That's a good stress test, being in a
canyon. Yeah.
Like literally canyon?
Literally.
You're at the bottom of this huge.
I not huge, but, big enough to. Are you trying to get me to tell you where I live?
Can you post the address on the screen? Let's get Ted's address up there.
For a limited time, you can sign up with Consumer Cellular and save $50 with promo code TED50.
Visit consumercellular.com/TED50 or call 1-888-FREEDOM and mention promo code TED50.
Terms and conditions apply.
Because, Woody, your break came so early, right? So you did you have years of thinking, I'm no good? Or were you always a pretty confident guy who felt like you were going to be a success?
Well, my period of doubt was condensed, but it was hardcore. It was concentrated.
Yeah.
And from when I moved to New York, and it took me. There was a 14-month period of where doubt, not only doubt, but severe depression kicked in.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Because I realized, when you're going for it, well, I don't have an agent, but I can't get an agent unless they see me in something. And I can't be seen in something unless I have an agent to put me in. So it was like a catch-22, and I just I really thought I was going to come here and, do well. And yet, and then of course, eventually I did get a.
And we were chatting just before this started, and you mentioned that I'm always amazed by these stories. I was sharing that I got to talk to Harrison Ford on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he was very candid about this period in the 60s, late 60s, where he's doing, you get to do a Bonanza, now you get to do a Gunsmoke, but he's living check to check, and he's got a family, and it's rough, and then someone sort of tells him, your name is no good, and you don't have the right look. And he said they handed him a picture of Elvis Presley, circa like 1967, with the big black pompadour from one of the later Elvis films, and said, go get this haircut, which he didn't do. But you hear it now and you think, wait, there was a period where Harrison Ford was sort of being kicked around. And he will tell you, oh, I remember the names. I remember the names of the executives that said these things to me. I remember the names of the people. And he still has that feeling. And I think that's the revelation, is that you were saying, Woody, that you had someone telling you, you got to lose the accent.
Lose the accent and fill that gap in the teeth.
Yeah.
But and we were also talking about Al Pacino.
Exactly.
So bitter about they didn't want him for Godfather.
Yeah.
And
He'll still to this day, if it comes up, so the studio, when they're putting together, they go, they didn't want me. They didn't want me. Take it easy, Al. Your face is on currency. You've made it in every, they didn't want me. Have you seen The Godfather? It's good. Yeah, No, give it a chance. And then there's a second one. We know, Al.
But let's not talk about the third.
Yeah.
But what about what was that for you? That
I think it's interesting because I was really interested. I loved comedy and I loved making my friends laugh, but I was not a class clown. I didn't. And, my parents are both very serious. Like my dad's kind of scientist and my mom's a lawyer, and these are very bright people. And at some point, I remembered very clearly in the 4th grade deciding I like being in plays. I like making people laugh. I was interested in show business, but I live in Brookline, Massachusetts, right on the line with. There's no one goes into. I don't know anybody. Once I think Robert Urich came to town, and someone saw him at a restaurant. That's as close as we ever. And I was 8 miles away and heard about it. That was as close as I ever got to show business. And so I thought, well, I can't do that, and that's not the kind of people we are. So I decided I was going to really, and this is not a sexy story at all, but I'm just going to grind it out and be a really good student. And I know this is like this is not a heroic tale, but I just went up in my room and memorized text and masturbated. Got my Brillo pad.
Brillo pad.
Yeah. And I just ground it out and then got into a top college. And got there thinking, well,
Harvard.
I got there at Harvard, and I'm like, okay, now I'm here, and I'm going to just grind it out here because the comedy thing that's a pipe dream. And what happens, I get there, I'm there like 3 days, and someone says, my roommate said, I'm going by the Lampoon, the comedy magazine. I was like, oh, yeah, I've heard about the Lampoon. He said, I'm going to go by and check it out. I said, I'll go with you. So I walked with him. We go to this very strange building, and they say, okay, it's an intense competition to get in. You have to write all these funny pieces. Most people get cut. A lot of freshmen don't make it. I'm a first semester freshman, but I try. And I keep making the cut. And I keep getting more and more into it. And then they come to me one day and they say, you're in. And suddenly I'm 18. And this place is run by 22-year-olds. And at that time, a 22-year-old might as well be a 55-year-old. I look up to these people. These are adults. And so I just decide, okay, I'm giving this everything I have. And I kind of ran the place while I was in college. And as I was getting out of college, there was this pipeline that was starting where people in LA and New York, Saturday Night Live was saying, hey, we got Jim Downey from SNL, or for SNL. Is there anyone else that could be good at SNL? And Jim Downey would say, well, you should, maybe George Meyer, maybe, And so there was nothing available at SNL, but my writing partner and I came out here, got a job at a show called Not Necessarily the News. And it's the same thing you were saying, Woody. You can't get a job in writing if you're not in the WGA. You can't be in the WGA if you don't have a writing job. And suddenly there was this show that said, we'll give you a writing job for a couple of weeks. And if you make the cut, you can stay. And it got us into the WGA, and we got to stay for like 2 years. And the first thing I did on my first day was called the Groundlings and say, because I knew I wanted to get on stage, and said, I want to do improv. And they said, we're all full up, but there's a class in Midtown in Hollywood on La Cienega. And it's at the Coronet Theater, and a woman named Cynthia Seghetti teaches it. And you literally just put like a $20 bill into a bowl when you come in, and you take this improv class. And the first day I'm there, I meet another person who's just out of college, who's really funny, and she and I click right away. And she says, hi, I'm Lisa Kudrow. And I go, hi, I'm Conan O'Brien. And we become best friends. And I start writing TV by day, doing improv at night, and one thing starts to lead to another. But it's always been fascinating to me that I went to this college specifically because I had kind of said, comedy's fun, but you don't make your living at it. So that's why I decided to get serious and go to this college, which immediately, the second I get there,
Put you on the
dumps
right
me
track.
into this track where I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. writing stuff and getting to perform some. And it was magical.
How did you pay the rent, as it were, during those years?
Well, we got a writing job right away. So
That paid the rent.
The writing would pay the rent, and we were getting scale, but Writers Guild scale, when you're 22 and it's your first job, is fantastic.
Yeah.
And also I had a $380 a month apartment on Cochrane Street in Hollywood. It was rent controlled. And I drove a 1973 Plymouth Valiant that I had bought from some surfer dudes down in a very sketchy part of Venice Beach. And it was a car that when you turned it off, it's called dieseling.
Yeah.
It goes. So if by chance I did get a date,
Yeah.
I'd pick her up in this car that looks like a car that they drove on Dragnet.
Yeah.
It's really just an old lady car, but it was kind of in good condition. And I thought, this is cool in kind of a meta way, right, ladies? No. But they would, if I got a date and they would go somewhere with me, I'd be the suave guy that wanted to run around and get the door for them. The car would diesel, and the girl would be like, is that? And I'd be like, just leave it alone. Leave it alone. In those early years, I was so hungry to get where I thought I needed to go, and I didn't even know where that was. So it's like a salmon doesn't know it's swimming upstream to spawn. It just knows it has to go against the current in this direction. That's all, because there's some tiny piece of microscopic zinc in its brain that says, and that's how it felt to me. I was very, very driven. So I didn't sit around a lot thinking about, am I going to have a family?
And that's the healthiest way to do it, because I feel sorry for people who just want to be famous, as opposed to, no, I just have to, and I don't even know why.
Well, that's the culture
path.
now, because I run into, I'm sure both of you have, but I run into a lot of people over the years that have said, hey, I want to talk to you about how you got to do what you get to do. And I'd say, well, tell me, do you write comedy? Do you like to perform? No. I'd be like, oh, well, do you act? No. And I used to say, back in the 80s and 90s, well, no, you need to learn your craft and you have to keep working at it. And I've been proven wrong.
Yeah, it's called influencers.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, it's just, but I still think we're not wrong. I still think it's not, you want to find the thing that you do that gives you a real feeling of satisfaction and joy. And I don't think taking selfies 10,000 times a day can give you that. I mean,
Well, hold on.
Okay, maybe it can. I think I'm just wrong about everything. I don't know.
Does fame irritate you? How do you deal with everyone knows who you are kind of thing?
You know, it's funny. I have, I think I'm part Irish Boston politician, because I'm around people that are, it's not a choice. I just am fortunate that I am very comfortable. And I think it does help to be tall or big, but
you're looking down on people.
And in every possible way, Woody, looking down on those peasants. I wasn't even talking about height. I really just I feel when people come up to me and say, "Hey, Conan," first of all, what's different is we should acknowledge that the two of you have made your careers being these other people. And I've never done that. I've done sketches where I'm someone else, but it's a cartoon. It's not even I'm not an actor. I don't even understand that process. So I'm just myself. So when I'm walking somewhere and someone says, "Hey, Conan," I go, "Yeah, what's up?" And then they say, "Oh, I didn't expect to see you." And I say, "Well, I didn't expect to see you either." And they, whatever. And then I like to talk to people, and I'm okay with it. And sometimes a little too okay with it, meaning they've had times where people got their selfie and they're ready to move on, and I ask them more questions and they say, "I really have to go." And it's like, so I'm very much okay with it, and I like to normalize it.
Yeah.
And I think the most normal thing to do is ask people about themselves.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be long, but just literally say like, oh, thanks a lot. And what's your name?
Yeah.
You know, my name's Bill. Bill, it's a pleasure to meet you. And it's real. It's just real. And I like them to know that the person they hear on the podcast or saw over 30 years of clips, that's me. That is me. It's no big deal.
And I do think you have a responsibility to at least match their.
Yes.
I mean, if they're rude and assholes, you can not. But I mean, if they're genuine people, you need to match their energy, their excitement, their appreciation.
It's mirror what's being brought to you. And like I say, if it is a very different thing, I think, you know, if someone's goes into a restaurant and Jack Nicholson's sitting there, Jack Nicholson has carefully curated this Jack Nicholson
Don't
thing.
come up to me.
Yeah, and if they do go up to him and he says, fuck off, he's just made their day. They're like, Jack Nicholson just told me to fuck off. I hate to break it to anybody, I'm not Jack Nicholson. They haven't seen me on like a 50-foot screen being an iconic character. I've literally been in their bedroom.
Yeah.
And some of them say, I watched you all through high school or college or medical school, and you were on really late at night, and nothing was on, and you were on, and then I didn't like you at first, but I got used to you, and blah, blah, blah. I built up a tolerance. And then there's this like, this is, there's no way if I said, hey, fuck you, it would be a betrayal of the whole thing. And it's also not how I feel.
I had to go make a speech at Cornell about oceans, which is something I do periodically. And I used to always start my ocean advocacy speeches with, I know it's strange that the guy who played Sam Malone is going to be talking to you about oceans. And I did this. I did this in Cornell. This was about 5 years ago. And I saw this total blank, you know, I played Sam Malone, and people are looking at me, and I went, okay, let me back up. In the latter half of the past century, I was on a show called Cheers. And, you know, it's what you used to base your identity in a bad way, but nevertheless you did.
Yes.
All of a sudden vanishes because people don't know about it. It was wonderfully, in a good way, humbling.
All you have to do is bring up the good place. And then you're like, so
thank God
you
for my
need
sure.
to keep, you know,
you have to keep current.
You keep resetting what you're known for. So, you know, it's funny how my whole identity for 30 years was that guy on television with the hair that looked like a dessert. And then suddenly I have young people coming up to me, or even older people that are like, this podcast, I really love this podcast and I really enjoy it. And then I find that there's some stuff on YouTube where you have a desk and you think, okay, that's okay. Whatever. It's all good.
Yeah.
As long as, you know, they're still imbibing whatever, they're still finding some value in what I'm doing, just in a different way.
Right. Plus, you never go away now on the internet. You can see everything anytime you want.
My early work in pornography. Recently.
I've seen it.
Yes,
I have seen it. And I was impressed. Woody, what did you think? We were both watching together.
What's that? That big bandage he had wrapped around. that was rude.
My nickname was Ace. I was Ace. And people thought, then they saw why I was called Ace, they were all disappointed. He has a very average penis wrapped up in an ace bandage? That's why he's called Ace?
I prefer to leave it in a roll because it then...
I understand.
Okay,
I understand.
All right.
I don't think we need to get into it. I don't think we need to get into it too much. Yeah.
Hey, I do have a segue that has nothing to do with what we just said. Is that a segue still? No.
Sure. Anything is whatever we want it to be, man.
I think you live this and you demonstrate it throughout this entire conversation, and you demonstrate it when you're on air doing whatever you do. But what is your guiding principle in life? What do you hinge your kind of moral stance in life on?
Oh, wow.
Boy, he went there.
He went.
But you're leading a purposeful life, and there's a kindness and a humor.
I was gonna say acquire real estate, but now that sounds hollow. Hang on to it, and then only let it go when the price is very high. I will say I can't. I have parents who are still with us at 94 and 91, and it was paramount to them that we're be good people, and that was something that was sort of drilled into us. And I know that that can sound corny because I'm not always a good person. Nobody is.
Right.
But I do think if, when presented with a situation, if I can discern what I think the right thing to do is, this is kind of a Good Place, episode. But if I can discern what the kind of the thing that is probably the right thing to do is, I will not always, but more often than not, try to do that thing.
Right.
And that's just not me. That is parents drilling stuff into me at an early age.
Right.
And so people can say like, oh, that sounds really noble. But there's a side to it that's not noble, which is I think I hate the feeling I get when I've upset someone or hurt their feelings. It really bothers me. And I think I hate that feeling. Or if I feel I sold someone out, I hate that feeling so much that it's pain avoidance. I'm working backwards from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm a great person. It really is. I'm trying not to have that terrible feeling. I'm over the years. I remembered once, I think I made a joke about Aaron Spelling. I said something kind of just derogatory about Aaron Spelling shows on my monologue. And a couple of days later, I got a letter, and it was from Aaron Spelling.
Hurt.
And he was hurt. And I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach.
Yeah.
And I don't know Aaron Spelling, but he basically just said, I really enjoy your show, and I was watching it with my family, and that really bummed me out, and I was devastated. I mean, I felt terrible because I don't want to make somebody feel badly.
Did you respond?
I did. I wrote him a letter and apologized and said the truth, which is I do a volume business. I'm out there every night, and I filled a name into a slot, which is what I do, and you got dinged, and it's that's not an excuse, but that's what happened.
Right.
And it didn't come from a personal place, and I'm really sorry that happened, and I'm sorry that you saw it, because I apologize.
That ended
and he
up
called me so ecstatic. And then I got the impression, wait a minute, he's writing angry letters every day. I'm just the first guy. Because he was too happy. He was like, you wrote me back. You grand son of a bitch. You're the best ever. Let's get it to... but anyway, it's working backwards from... And I noticed it too in performance. I hate the feeling of being in front of people and they're not amused so much. It makes me sick to my stomach that if I find out there's an event I'm supposed to do, I prepare a lot and I ask a lot of questions and I try and think of things and I ask people, is this funny? Is that funny? And you could say, well, that's very noble that you're so hardworking. No. It is avoidance of a bad, terrible feeling.
Sure.
I don't want that feeling. So I'm going to do these things to minimize my chances that I'll have them.
Right. Hey, this is going to sound like a change of subject, but can we talk about aging and things that are diminishing? Actually, why don't you talk amongst yourselves while I go pee?
Oh, I see what he did there. I see what he did.
That's well done.
That was very well done.
Hey,
now,
you and I can, I feel like he's kind of dominated the conversation. Have you noticed that?
I mean, to be honest with you, Woody, I came here to talk to you.
Yeah.
I told you destroyed it in Triangle of Sadness.
God
Absolutely
bless you.
destroyed it. One of my favorite movies, as I told you, is No Country for Old Men. And I loved you in that movie so much. And I talked specifically about that scene. So I was geeking out with you. And then I find that fucking Ted Danson's part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And my
That
heart
happens to all the guests.
I
really
see it.
It's kind
and
of
then
the
he goes on and on about when I was speaking
On
at
and
Cornell about the ocean. Who signs up for that lecture?
That's a real self-aggrandizing. You know, I
Yes.
care about the environment. Okay, great.
Sure,
I
yeah,
get
the
it.
ocean.
I get it.
I think
There's
it's the ocean's
issues.
job to take care of the ocean. I do. You know, if the ocean doesn't like all that plastic we throw in it, it should expel it to the tides. There's an order to things. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking forward to him urinating, and I could see him
Yeah.
very uncomfortable for the last 20 minutes. Because I think he's not just urinating, being honest with you right now. I think a lot's happening over there.
Yeah, because of that whole earlier discussion. Yeah.
But I'm just happy to have
can
now finally it's two guys who can, we're a similar vintage.
Two, well, real men.
Real men.
Oh,
Here he is. No.
Here he comes.
But you know what? He's back. And you know what?
hey.
The oceans are sacred. And if we don't care for them,
Oh, wait a
I mean,
minute.
they are. If you think about it, without the oceans, it's all just one continent. But
God,
with
you guys.
oceans, suddenly we have continents
Yeah.
because they divide up the space of the land.
And that way we can, war with each other
Yes.
and all the fun.
Yeah.
This is fascinating conversation. I'm sorry I missed it.
No. I don't think it would interest you. We were discussing our passion for the ocean. Well, you were
Oh, Lord.
urinating. But now,
Yeah,
Woody,
we
I
were
mean,
just
do you
tipping
care
our
about
hat to you,
about
man.
the world at all? Because I'm curious. I'm going to drill down on Woody here for a second. Ted seems to care about things and think about more than himself. And you
Right.
seem like someone who's just devoted your whole life to self-pleasure, just living in the moment, good times. And I demand.
I think that sums it up pretty good.
No, that's not true. I know we shouldn't be doing it, but let me pick your brain about podcasts.
Yep.
All right. You know,
Okay.
Woody and I being new at this. Do you sit there and think, wait, Mike, I don't want my kids to hear me be this way or tell this story. Do you, or my mom and my dad, do you censor yourself?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't, and I'll tell you, and this is going to sound like a joke, but it's not. My children have no interest in
Yes.
listening to my podcast, and I take that as a healthy sign. So
Yes.
they will never hear this because they care about themselves and their lives, and I am a figure, like a sitcom dad is always a figure of ridicule. I am a sitcom dad
Yeah.
when I go home. They're not interested. I'll say something and there's a lot of eye rolling and, yeah, Dad, that's what it's called, a GIF. No, it's GIF, whatever. I'm the idiot.
Ooh,
There's a
learned.
laugh track. And my parents don't consume podcasts at their age. And so
So
I don't
you can
censor
say
much.
what you want.
yeah.
I mean, unless
Pretty-
it's about spelling, but you can. No, you don't want to insult him.
No, I feel badly about that. He made some good shows. And then some other shows, but whatever. He was a good man, and who am I to say things? He
What
had
do
a
you
lot-
do when you have a guest that's like pulling teeth? Because this has been a real challenge today for me and Woody, to be
It's
honest.
been
I know.
This is the most taxing challenge. in
I am
the world.
withholding.
Holy God.
What do you do with people, though? Seriously.
I just start, and it's so funny because I learned this from years and years of doing the late night show, but it hasn't really happened on the podcast because on the podcast, you don't make as many,
Right.
The real challenge was do a
No.
late night show, and I ended up doing like whatever it is, 4,000 hours of
Wow.
broadcasting, 3 guests a night, or sometimes not even music, sometimes 3 talk guests a night. And you do the math and you realize there were so many times I was out there with the 7th lead on a WB show that you've never heard of that lasted 3 months, named Saz Bickler. And I'm like, here he is, and he's 19, he's had no life experience, and he plays Chiz. So here, you all know us, he's Chiz on You Better Not. Saz Bickler. And he would come out, and he's just, 6 weeks ago was working at whatever, polishing trays at Chipotle, and now he's sitting there, and yeah, sometimes lightning strikes, and this kid has an amazing things to say, but there's a lot of times where they've got absolutely nothing to say. And so I would just start talking And fortunately, his sidekick, Andy Richter, is really funny. And Andy would be sitting on the other side. And I'd be like, Saz, it's funny because it says you worked at Chipotle. Now, I was at Chipotle once. And I have to say, and then Andy would go like, oh, don't get me started on Chipotle. And we would go, and Saz would be laughing. And then the whole thing would be over. And I'd say, Saz, fantastic. Oh, no, you better not. Check it out on the WB. And everyone would applaud. And then my producer afterwards would say, you were worried about him. I thought Saz did pretty well. And I'd say, Saz didn't say a fucking thing. He didn't say a fucking thing. Look at the fucking tape. It's me and Andy talking about Chipotle and big laughs. And Saz just giggling along. But sure enough, people would be like, I saw Saz. He's a raconteur. He's a real Richard Burton. So I would do a lot of talking.
That's kind of, on Cheers, I used to think in the beginning, you need to have the funny line. And then I realized, no, you don't need to be the one delivering the funny line. You need to stand next to the person who's doing the funny line, and you'll come across great.
And it's what I learned watching the greats. I learned watching Jack Benny and Johnny Carson, who learned it from Jack Benny, and Jack Benny learned it from someone whose name we'll never know because they existed, before it could be recorded.
Pre-podcast.
Pre-podcast. But I swear to God, some of my best moments that people really love, I'm reacting by doing very little. So someone next to me is being very inappropriate, and the camera's on them, and they're going on, and it's a woman going on, and it's about this very sexual, sexy thing, and there's just a cut to me looking slightly constipated, and that gets a huge reaction.
Yeah,
I didn't say anything. Yeah. They just know.
Yeah.
They're uptight Catholic. They know my part at a certain point, and they know that. So, yes, it's the person who, I think it was someone once noticed in a script that Jack Benny, who was the biggest star in radio in the 30s and 40s, and then a TV of 50s, massive star, someone went through his script and said, Jack, you don't have any of the laughs on tonight's episode. They went through and they looked at it and they said, Jack, you don't have one laugh. And he went, my name's on the show.
Yeah.
If the show is funny, who cares? Yeah. And I always had that feeling that I love it, when people would come on, and Norm Macdonald and any of these like iconic people would come on and destroy. My job is to get out of the way. Get the fuck out of the way. I'm here tomorrow night. Get out of the way and only step in if I can be of help.
What is your, I can really unplug? Where do you go with your family? You don't have to tell me the location, but do you get to go take your family and totally unplug?
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Yeah, I love to go. To be honest with you, as I said, like, I'm not Michael Jackson or Taylor Swift. I'm one of those people who people see me and they recognize me and they say hello, and very often say something nice to me and will want a selfie, and I'm more than happy to do it. And then I'm at REI, looking at the canoe like anyone else, and deciding whether or not I should buy it. I don't need a canoe, but it was a wasted trip. But I should have decided that before I went to REI. But I really like, one of my favorite things to do is skiing. I love skiing because I just love being outside. And so I love to go skiing. And also, as you know, when you're skiing, like, when you're skiing, no one cares. Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh, Conan's in line with us.
And you got goggles, and maybe that's Conan, maybe it's not.
No, my goggles say I am Conan. I had them made.
Right across the top.
Yeah, I get if I'm not recognized, I get very ornery. So all my clothing makes it very clear.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing I don't tell anybody, which is I do have a motorcycle, which I've had for years, and I just ride it like on back roads, away from people, and I love that. And I'm try to be very safe about it, but I just stay away from, I like to get outside Los Angeles and drive places where there aren't a lot of
you
cars.
don't ride it in the city.
No,
at
I
all.
don't drive in the city. No,
Yeah,
it's weird. I ride a bike in the city, like a bicycle.
Yeah. Oh, really?
But I don't. I don't know. I just feel like I'm. It's too. I don't know. I've decided. I like back roads. I like taking it way out.
Did you
But I
ever
like
drive up to Ojai?
I have.
Yeah. Did you ever go to my friend's Guy Webster's bike museum?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Is that in Ojai?
Yeah. Was. He passed away, but he had the Italian race bike collection
Oh, wow.
to end all collections. Yeah.
No, I've done that trip over the hill. I love going up that pass.
Yeah.
Casitas Pass.
Yeah.
And then you come down the other side, and it's very freeing to do that. And there's a kind of anonymity, and also a kind of feeling like, well, if I have a credit card,
I could keep going.
I could keep going, and it's that sort of Jack Kerouac. I could keep going, and I could find a motel somewhere. I love that. I did a big drive, not on a motorcycle, but in a truck. I did a big drive 2 weeks ago, and I went up the 5, and I pulled into a truck stop, and I stayed at an inn that's right there on the truck stop. And I asked them, is there any place I could get a bite to eat? And they said, yeah, there's a restaurant right in there. So I went in and I sat at the bar because I'm alone. And all these guys came over and sat next to me, and they all work in agriculture. And they were all like, at first they were asking me, why are you here?
Yeah.
And I said, this is my hangout spot, which it wasn't. But I said, I love it here. I love this truck stop. But I hung out there.
What made you say, okay, I'm going to
I had a
get
destination,
a room?
but I wanted to get, I had a destination up in San Francisco, but I wanted to stop halfway because I didn't want to do the whole drive. And so I just kind of halfway said, hey, there's a truck stop. And I pulled in, and because I saw that there was what looked like, it looked like a Spanish mission, but it had been built to look like a Spanish mission in 1962. That's what it looked like. And I don't know, hung out, ended up talking to all these people, and then really got into this conversation about water usage and like what they're worried about, which is, why does LA get all the water? We want the water.
Yeah.
And I was listening to them, and we had a really great conversation. And then I said, guys, I got to go. And they're like, you got to speak for us, Conan. Speak for us. And I said, I'm not I'm a comedian. No one's going to care what I say about water usage in the Central Valley.
And besides, you think ag takes too much water. You can say it.
Well, yeah. I wish you were there. I wish you were there with me.
Yeah.
No, but here's what I am. You remember I become whatever I am. So if I'm with a group of people saying, we got to save water, I'm like, you bet we do. I mean, we got to keep the water here in the city. You bet we do, fellas.
This is my 2 cents. I think your guiding principle is to be kind. I think you're one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Oh, Jesus.
And it comes across even when you're, doing comedy and all over the place. You really are a kind gentleman, and I think that's really
a nice
cool.
thing to say.
That's true.
Now
Really
I feel
comes
like I have to
across.
live up to that, and I won't. Like, I always think that's a thing you put on people, and then they're like, there's going to be a photograph of me slapping a nun tomorrow.
Yes. It is a conversation, Andrew. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm thrilled. I have to say, everyone here in the building, and I say this with great annoyance, gets all excited. Ted and Woody are coming. And then I open up the refrigerator here at my company, and there's 3 shelves of the refrigerator that say, for Ted and Woody, special yogurts, weird fruits I've never heard of, a book in the refrigerator about oceans. It has to be kept at 44 degrees. But no, you guys, it is not a task to sit down with you guys and shoot the shit. It's a real joy. It's really fun.
Good.
And I'm happy you guys know who I am. Seriously, that's the place I'm coming from.
We
So
know
thank
who
you.
our boss is. That's
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
know.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, no, it
Sit up
really
straight,
has,
hippie.
It really has.
And no more flip flops.
What is with these chairs? But anyway, dude, really has been a pleasure. I can't. It just naturally.
You are the most relaxed looking human being I've ever seen in my life.